Who's Ian Laizer? This is a question I ask myself, I don't know, a lot. But before we get into who I am, let's start with my last name. Let's talk about my last name. This is how you pronounce my last name. It's not Laizer, it's Laizer. It's also French-Austrian. France used to be a much larger country, but we're not here for a history lesson. I basically just summed it up into this answer. I'm a dyslexic kid stuck in a 25-year-old man's body who's creative, whatever that means. So what do I even create? I'm a fashion designer, graphic designer, videographer, photographer, video editor, and pretty much anything I think I can do myself, I've done it. But my main focus is my clothing brand, Cloudpool, and paying bills. I've been working on Cloudpool for almost 11 years now, which is absolutely insane. Let me give you the backstory. So I'm 15 years old, I just started high school, and I want to be a professional athlete. I know, how original. But at the same time, I always loved movies, art, photography, video making, YouTube, just anything that was a creative outlet. During all of this, I'm drawing a lot on desk at school. I know I was the kid who drew on desk. I always went back to this one specific drawing. It was a cloud with an X in the middle. Just loved to draw it. Jump to December, I am playing in a basketball tournament and really mess up my knee. I hyperextend it. So I hurt my knee and basically I can't do anything for 2 weeks, and this is one of the only times I have school off. So I'm alone a lot. I'm just kind of sitting in my room and doing absolutely nothing. So I start to kind of think and weigh on the idea of doing something with this logo. Basically, I came up with the idea of, why don't I start a clothing brand? So as I was thinking about this, thought to myself, okay, I need a name. I have this logo, but I don't have a name. So I sat in my room for about 2 hours and just figured it out. I ended up with Cloudpool. I knew I had to be Cloud something, obviously, just because based on the logo. Everything else sounded kind of just terrible. Cloud X, Cloud 9, like, I don't know, whatever the corny cloud names you can kind of come up together with. Basically, I just sat down and just figured it out. Ultimately, I came up with Cloudpool. So when coming up with the name, I think one key factor was making sure I would like the name when I was older. That was always something I thought about when creating things was, am I going to like this in the future? I put a bunch of different names like Palace, Supreme, Nike, Adidas, and I kind of just listed it all out and then kind of threw Cloudpool in the middle and just repeated that over and over again, this list, to make sure that the name sounded good and flowed off the tongue correctly. And ultimately, I think it did. So I ended up with Cloudpool. So flash forward to summer. I've been thinking about Cloudpool all school year long and just waiting for summer to get the time to actually be able to start it. And I started it. I get Illustrator, the Adobe Cloud, and figure out how to use it. I have kind of some drawings and some sketchbooks. They're all really terrible. So I started off with iron transferring them onto like really cheap Gildan tees. And that's kind of how I started. I sold them to friends for like $7 or something and just slowly kind of did it. I started the Instagram and just kind of moved forward from there. As I'm doing this throughout the summer, I'm realizing the quality of what I'm doing is not great. So I'm trying to find alternative solutions. So I end up using the website Society 6. It's basically a website where you can post art and they'll print on demand for you basically. And it's kind of like your own web shop system. It's similar to like Printify or whatnot. I made some terrible designs. Some people might like them still, but I think it's just like one of those things when you look back at your old work and you're like, oh wow, did I really make that? Did I really think that was a good idea? Cut to sophomore year. And during sophomore year, I'm still doing the Society 6 stuff, but like no one really wants to buy my stuff in high school. One, because nobody liked me that much. And two, the shirts were too expensive. Everything was just like too expensive. So I ended up saving money for Christmas and getting a heat press. And at this point, I started a Wix website and started doing everything myself, buying the transfers, buying the blanks and figured that out. And I did that for a very long time. As I'm doing this, I am starting to think more, kind of thinking about what I want to make and what I want the brand to be. I started to realize that if I wanted to do patterns and all of our graphics and these different things, so I go on Alibaba and I learn the process of manufacturing the absolute hard way. as kind of all of this is happening, I'm actually doing pretty decent with the Wix website and the Instagram. I'm slowly kind of making sales, doing like not too bad. But when I started manufacturing, that's when things began to like actually move forward for me. The first thing I ever manufactured was this rainbow stripe t-shirt. Now, I had a sample for a fleece I really wanted to do, but I didn't have enough money, so I had to just do the t-shirt. And the minimum order was 100, which was a lot for me back in the day. And what was so interesting about this shirt, which I think is, this shirt is absolutely horrendous. This shirt is absolutely horrendous. If you like it, that's cool, but like to me, that shirt is absolutely horrendous. I don't know what I was thinking. It was my favorite shirt. I wore it way too much. I digress. This was really funny because this was the first product that actually like, I ordered 100 units and I sold out. So funny enough, I like ended up finding this out later as these shirts began to sell, but I realized I was shipping most of the orders to a country in Europe called Denmark. Randomly enough, someone posted my rainbow stripe shirt, a picture of it, in a Facebook group in Denmark, and it just kind of blew up. It was really weird too, because I didn't know at the time. It just was shipping out these orders from Denmark, and I was like, oh cool, maybe like Instagram's pushing my stuff or like whatever, but turns out someone had put my stuff in a group chat, and I started to make a bunch of sales from Denmark. So yeah, that was fantastic, but I was still like a little uneasy of like, okay, is this gonna continue to keep happening or not? You know, I had my doubts, but it kept happening. Now it cuts around senior year and I'm just slowly getting a bunch of orders from Denmark. I'm making stuff, it's selling pretty good, basically selling out. And you know, I'm doing pretty good. I don't need to get a job or anything for extra cash to, you know, do whatever I'm doing in high school, skipping class and whatnot. And, you know, getting food. So it was basically like my high school job at this point. I was doing pretty good, making some good sales and kind of building like a really cool community. So I was just kind of thinking one day at lunch and I thought to myself, man, it'd be really cool to get to go over there and actually do like a pop-up or something, you know? Because no one really in the States was like actually buying my stuff like that. I had a few customers from Florida who were pretty consistent, you know, just some different parts, California, of course. But, you know, I was like, wow, it'd be really cool if I actually had the opportunity to do a pop-up shop in Denmark. So basically I post on my story, does anyone want to come to the pop-up shop in Denmark? And I think like 1,000 people said yes. So at this point, now I have to convince my parents to let me go over there to do a pop-up for spring break. Which is like kind of funny because my parents are very reluctant, even though it's like the 5th safest country in the world, or it was at that time. And I wasn't nervous to go over there. I just thought it'd be a really cool experience. And I always was trying to do something cool with my life, especially too at a young age. I just thought it would be like a sick opportunity. Luckily, they said yes. It did take a lot of convincing, but my kind of point was, well, I could go to Florida and get drunk, which is what most people would do. They would go illegally drink in Florida and get really drunk, which is, you know, that's just kind of the culture in the South. But I wasn't really like a fan of that. I had rather spend my money and actually go to Europe and do something really cool. And I had never been to Europe either, not once in my life. I don't even think I traveled internationally by myself before like that. So yeah, so I do the pop-up. It was actually pretty good. I didn't like sell out or anything, but I did like a pretty good job. And I did a whole 40-minute documentary I filmed on an old Sony Handycam Hi8. So the biggest takeaway from the first pop-up was, and I think I said this in the documentary I shot, was I hope I get to go back. It was probably one of the best experiences like I've ever had in my life, definitely top 10. And I just really wanted to go back. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen or, you know, anything can happen in that time frame. But I ended up going back in the summer to do a one-day pop-up, but I hung out there for 2 weeks before I started college. And it was one of the funnest 2 weeks I have ever had. It was filled with just shenanigans, hanging out with new friends, seeing more of a country that I had only visited once. And it was a really good experience. Like I loved it. So the pop-up was one day out of the 2 weeks I was there. And the pop-up was a really big success. I sold out in, I think, 3 hours. It was like that, it was done. People were like, oh, is the pop-up closed? And I'm like, yeah, everything's sold out. I can't sell you anything anymore. I didn't bring enough clothes. Which was so disappointing because I was like, I should have brought more clothes. I should have took a bigger risk. I should have done maybe like a 2-day, 3-day pop-up instead. But it was just awesome. It was a great feeling to actually be able to like sell out at a physical store so quickly. So then I started college and went to SCAD for a quarter. Absolutely hated it. So I drop out of SCAD. I'm planning on going to another school. And what ends up happening is I do a pop-up in between that time frame. And it was a good pop-up. A lot of people came. It was a lot of fun. Sold a lot of stuff, but it wasn't too crazy. It wasn't like the summer one. But the key takeaway from that one is that when I got back, one of the people who I was friends with and met through Cloudpool asked me, how would you feel about moving to Denmark and starting the company there? And I thought to myself, F it. So now I'm taking a big risk here. I'm moving halfway across the world in a country where I don't speak the language. Most people speak English there, and I have to navigate, one, owning a business there, and two, running it, while also simultaneously, figuring out my life at the same time. The experience did not turn out great. COVID happened and I had to shut down the business, but man, those were some of the best times I think I've ever had in my life. To be honest, it was a really fun experience to experience a new country, hang out with different people, and just, live too in a place that wasn't like the main place of Denmark. I ended up living in Aarhus, not Copenhagen. Aarhus is the second biggest city. Absolutely stunning city. It's gorgeous, beach, forest. It's fantastic. You're probably asking yourself, did you continue to keep doing Cloudpool? The answer is yes, but we're gonna continue that story for a later time. So why did I even start a YouTube channel? Well, the first and the most obvious reason is, one, to find a new way to get exposure for my brand Cloudpool. Two, because I have way too much inventory. Three, because I need to do this. I need to get back to my roots in terms of being the face of the brand and putting myself out there more. And I think this is a great way to do that and not feel constricted by short form content, which I hate making. I feel like I'm always constricted to a specific timeline and time point and a trend and whatnot. And I feel like with YouTube, I'm gonna have way more freedom to just yap as much as I want and give you guys advice on how to start a clothing brand and just kind of share my experiences through life. Anyways, my next 3 videos are gonna be based on the past 3 collections I've worked on and just kind of going into detail on kind of my ideas and design process and how I got to the finished products I did. So that's it. Hopefully I'll see you around. All love.